So I thought it'd be fun to come on here and do sort of Q&A, give me a chance to introduce myself, talk a little bit about the channel, some new things that are going on, and of course, answer some Qs. But before we get into all of that, I think the first order of business is probably just a thank you. My whole life, I've wanted to do creative work and have people care or notice in some way, and thanks to you guys, the audience, that is now happening. So my whole life goal has basically been achieved here. I don't know where to go from here, but for now, this is really awesome. So thank you, sincerely. Before we get to the Q&As, I do want to announce something that I'm super excited about, and that is a Patreon. There is now a Horses Patreon. You can go sign up at the link on screen now if you want to. If you don't want to, then by all means don't. But the first thing on the Patreon is going to be a giveaway. I'm going to be giving away 10 to 15 of these long sleeve shirts. We've got a picture of Leo Tolstoy in his old age right there on top of little horses. I like the shirts a lot, and I'll be giving them away, giving 10 to 15 of them away, not necessarily to the first 10 to 15 Patreon subscribers, but I'll check back in a week and just pick 10 to 15 randomly and reach out with how to claim your shirt. So that's the first thing that's going on there. But I do want to talk a little bit about why I think a Patreon is even appropriate for this channel. And the first consideration here is that I want to make a lot of things that aren't YouTube videos or don't fit on the YouTube channel for a number of reasons. Some of these things are physical objects, so they're not YouTube videos. Some of them are audiobook readings. Some of them are, I haven't even discovered them yet. It's kind of, the Patreon is going to be sort of a creative playground. And then some of them will be video essays like you might see on the Patreon, on the YouTube channel, excuse me. But they would just be removed from YouTube. Not demonetized, they'd probably be removed because they're about subjects that are too violent, too explicit, too whatever the case may be. So it'll give me a place to put those particular video essays as well. And kind of on that note, I should mention that another reason for the Patreon is that almost every video I put on YouTube gets demonetized to some degree. Many of them, some of them, I should say, I can appeal and they do get turned over, but that's definitely not the case all of the time. So, I'm not super interested in changing my videos to suit advertiser guidelines or YouTube guidelines. I just want to make the videos that I feel like I want to make. So I'm hoping that the Patreon can kind of pick up some of that slack as far as generating money and helping me pay my bills. So that's the long and the short of it on the Patreon. Again, if you want to sign up, the link's on the screen now. I'll also put just a rough list of the stuff you can expect to see over there. Again, starting with this giveaway. Oh, and I do want to mention, I will be making more apparel in the future, but for now, well, not for now, for these shirts, this is the only time I will release them. This is the only time they will be available to not purchase, but win. So if you want one, signing up for the Patreon is the only way to get one into eternity. So now let's get into the Q&As. Do you have an academic background? If so, in what field? This was a very popular question, and I appreciate that a lot. I find that very flattering because I have no academic background in any field at all. I didn't go to college. In fact, I barely graduated high school. I think I had like a 1.6 to 1.9 GPA throughout the entirety of my high school career, and I'm pretty sure that is a failing GPA. One of my teachers in my senior year was kind or generous enough or whatever to flub one of my grades, bump it up a little bit, and by virtue of that, I graduated high school. Otherwise, I would not have. I did go to culinary school for just short of a semester. I don't think that counts as an academic background, and I dropped out of it pretty quickly. Do you feel academia is a writer's foundation? Well, given that I kind of consider myself a writer of sorts, and I don't have any academia in my foundation, I would say no. I don't think that it has to be a writer's foundation. It certainly can be if that's how you choose to apply your academic experience, qualifications, etc. But it doesn't have to be. I think it depends a lot on the person. For me, my foundation for my writing, I think, has just been experiencing the world with as much of an open mind as I can attempt to have. I feel that I've experienced in my shorter life so far, I think I've experienced a pretty wide breadth of things in the world. I've been in situations where I was tremendously uncomfortable, and I've been in situations where I have been tremendously comfortable. I have spent time with people from all sorts of different backgrounds, different socioeconomic statuses, different life experiences, and I think just keeping an open mind to all of that has helped me, create some kind of foundation for the writing that I now do. Again, that doesn't have to be the case for everyone, but for me, I would say academia is not my foundation. Did you enjoy writing essays at school, or did it happen later? I picked this question just because I have kind of a funny thing to say about it. When I was in school, high school, I did enjoy writing essays. I enjoyed writing essays so much that I would write other kids' essays for them and get them to pay me money. I can't say I would or wouldn't recommend it. Results were generally mixed. But yes, I've always enjoyed writing essays ever since I can remember. What is your creative process? So, I don't know exactly how to answer this question. I feel like no matter what answer I give, there will be things that people wanted to hear that I didn't say, and probably vice versa. So what I'll do is just run through the process of making a video from ideation to pressing the publish button. It starts obviously, it starts with an idea, and those ideas can come from anywhere. They come from sometimes movies, books I've read, TV shows, other YouTube videos. Just, they naturally kind of appear in the wild as I go about engaging with the stuff that I like to engage with. Every time that I've tried to find ideas, I have failed. I never come up with anything when I specifically go looking for good ideas. Once I have an idea, I need to kind of critically assess that idea and determine, do I have anything really interesting to say about this idea? Is there a video that I can make that 50 people haven't made already and probably made better? If I feel that the answer to that is yes, then I'll kind of go ahead with the video. But I don't want to make a video that basically has been done before. So that's the sort of the litmus test for the seed of a video. Once it has passed that test, then I get into the research phase. Research is, I was going to say the most important part of the process. Maybe that's not true, but it does strike me as a very, very important part of the process. And none of my ideas are so original that no one has ever written a book about them, to be honest. So my research starts with books. I just see what books have been written out there. I just see what books have been written about a given idea. And this has been without fail. No matter what thing I want to make a video about, there are books about it. I think books are a great way to find information as opposed to the internet, because you can vet the authors, you can vet the book themselves based on the public and whatever academic consensus exists about the book. And so I order 2, 3, 4, 5, as many books as I think are interesting about this idea. When I get the books, I don't read them cover to cover, page to page. It's just not possible. I think if I did that, for every video. Every video would probably take 6 months to create, and somewhere in the process I would get so bored that I would just give up, or so tired of it that I would just give up. So what I do is I just skim each book with a highlighter. I just highlight all the sections that I think would be relevant, interesting, and compelling to include in my video. Once I've done that through all my books, or book, depending on the video, I pull those highlighted sections and I basically use them to make an outline in a Word document. This outline starts super vague. Section 1, intro. Section 2, early history. Section 3, middle history, etc., etc. And then I use the highlighted sections of the books to flesh that outline out, to turn it into something cognizant, something that makes sense. And I just keep doing that more and more until that outline is so big that it is no longer really an outline, that I can no longer use it as an outline. At this point, it can be anywhere from 10 to 20 pages long, and then I turn that into a script. As I write the script, I just try to think of empathy and perspective, and I try to approach the topic with, maybe not always objectivity, but some sense of rationality, maybe critical thinking. And I go through and I write the script. I think writing a script for YouTube or for any video, I guess, is probably a little different than writing for the written word, as they say. But essentially, by the time it's over with, I just have an essay. And that is, again, anywhere from 10 to 30 pages, depending on the video at hand, the topic, and as in-depth as I want to go in the video. And from there, I record it with this microphone in this room on this computer. That's probably my biggest pain point. I think the process of audio recording is really tedious and not super enjoyable. But I also think when you are engaging in any creative enterprise or pursuit or process, there will be parts of it that are not fun. That's kind of the unfortunate reality. Like, if I could, I would just press a button and have a finished YouTube video. That would be great. But along the line, whether it's a YouTube video or a painting or a novel or whatever it may be, I think you will have to do steps that you don't want to do. And I guess that's the work part of creative work. So once I get through that, then I come to making the video part of the video. This is a fun part of the process. I really enjoy looking all over the internet for visual assets. And I get a lot of questions about where I get these visual assets. Most of them come from museum websites, library websites, archive.org, or occasionally just YouTube, Google image search. It's really great if I can find scans of old books. I think those have a really nice feel to them, rather than just digital images. But it's kind of a needle in a haystack feeling, and throughout this process, it's all kind of predicated on personal taste. I just find stuff that obviously that is relevant to the subject of the video, but also stuff that I just like the visual language of. I just look for videos and images that fit my sensibilities. It's great if they can communicate a feeling that I have or that I discuss while I'm making the essay, but the ultimate filter is just my own personal taste. So I just crawl the internet looking for all this stuff. And I do that kind of as I'm building the video. It's not like I find a bunch of stuff and then go make my video. It's just, every 30 seconds or a minute of the video, I am constantly looking for new visual assets. This can sometimes result in the end, like the back half of my video, looking different, maybe better than the first half of my video because I find new cool stuff. But I don't know, that's just all part of the process. So once I've got the narration and the visual assets all plugged in, I use After Effects, by the way. Once I've got them plugged into After Effects, then it's time to find music. And as most of you probably know, music is usually a pretty big part of my videos. And for my music, this is not an ad, I'm not sponsored by these people or anything. I use epidemicsound.com. It does cost money, but it's pretty reasonable. I think it's $10 or $15 a month for unlimited access to all of their music. And they've got a really wide variety, a really big library of everything from awesome classical music to like the most contemporary, ultra modern electronic stuff you could imagine. So I mine through Epidemic Sound. There have been a couple instances where I've gone outside of that website, but mostly I use music from that website. Then I put that into After Effects, and then I get the video rendering. If you're not in the process of YouTube video making, rendering is where you take your creative After Effects or whatever file and pump it out into a MP4, QuickTime file, just a movie file. While that is happening, and that takes a really long time, I hone down on title and thumbnail. I know that's really important for YouTube, and I think about it to a degree. Kind of as I'm writing the essay, I keep my, radar on for cool titles, I guess. And I just pick a title that I think sounds cool, that I think fits mood-wise the content of the video. And then I pick a thumbnail that reflects the content of the essay, the video. And once again, those things are just filtered through my own personal taste. I'll talk a little bit more about that whole thing later, but once I have video, thumbnail, title, it's time to publish. And I basically publish them as soon as they're done. There's no timing, there's nothing like that. I just put them up whenever they're finished. So that's how I make a video. I hope that was useful. I hope that was a good answer to the question. I don't know how exactly you guys would have wanted that question answered, but hopefully that did something like a good answer. Is there a motivation of deeper themes past a general exploration of the world in your videos? So I thought this question would be a good chance to just talk about what the channel is, why it exists, why I make these videos. And the motivation and the deeper themes that the question references, it's simply me expressing myself creatively. Every decision at every point of the channel is and always will be making stuff in a way that I find creatively fulfilling. That's it. There's no strategy. There's no real thesis of the channel. I don't look at analytics or metrics, things like RPMs and CPMs. I don't totally even understand what those are. I just make the videos that I like, and that's the whole point. So the motivation of deeper themes, as the question says, would just be me seeking creative fulfillment, creative exploration, and making stuff that I like. How much AI do you use? Why did you choose to use AI, and why have you stopped? This is a question that I get all the time in my comments, in email. I've answered a few emails with the same question, and I get it. I think it's a good question. Obviously, I'm including it in this video. But I do think the whole subject of AI there are a lot of takes on it on the internet, and very few of them are super original. So it's not something that I'm ever going to like deep dive into. But I do feel like I owe the viewers an answer, because it's a pretty popular question. So to answer these questions, this series of questions, I'll just take you through the channel's relationship with AI from when I wasn't using it, to when I started using it, to when I stopped using it, and to now, and now I don't use it in anything. It's not part of my process anymore. So, from the beginning of the channel, at the beginning of the channel, I was making videos that were 3 to 5 minutes long, and I would find freelance artists, contract them to draw basically 2 or 3 illustrations for a video, and I would just reuse them over and over in these tiny 3 to 5 minute videos. I found that, as maybe in hindsight now seems obvious, to be very limiting. It was limiting in the sense that I couldn't make a very long video because I didn't have enough visual assets. I was also I was subject to the sensibilities of the individual artist. And I think I hired really good artists, but the whole visual presentation of the video would basically be up to them rather than to me. So it was creatively limiting and functionally limiting in the sense I couldn't make very long videos. And then also, I was paying out of my own pocket. I only had so much money, not very much money at all, actually. So all of that together, as I wanted to make longer videos, seemed like it was not really a winning strategy or a good decision. And then I started drawing the pictures myself. For a period of my life, I wanted to be a visual artist, and I tried half-heartedly to be a visual artist. So I started drawing the pictures myself, and you can see these in the Donald Crowhurst video, the Northman video, and I think there might be one more. I can't remember what it is right now. But these drawings were ink on paper or acrylic paint on paper. They were full-fledged paintings in many instances whenever they had full color. And it was a lot of work. I mean, for a 10 to 15 minute video, I would produce 150, maybe 200 drawings total. And that took up so much time and effort that I could not focus on the writing of the video, which I kind of knew / thought that was maybe where my strength kind of was, or at the very least it was something I was more interested in than drawing pictures. So this emerged as a tremendous workload. You know, every 1 to 2 weeks doing 200, sometimes more, sometimes less, full color, like physical, not always full color, but physical drawings. That's crazy. There's no one that could do that for a long period of time. And I did it for a little while, but I, to be honest, got bored of that visual identity. That was a huge part of it. I just found this really boring. It was a lot of work. It was distracting from the writing process, which is something I really enjoyed. And it was completely, above all, for all those reasons maybe, entirely unsustainable. So, at that point, and keep in mind, I had, 1,000 subscribers, probably not even that many. So none of this really felt like it mattered at all in any way. So I started experimenting with Midjourney AI, and for a while I thought those were cool. I thought they looked cool. I still think they look, just purely on the basis of visuals, I think they look cool. But this, I started to realize, was just as much work as drawing the images myself. I would still have to create, if you've never used Midjourney AI, it creates 4 versions of an image and then you pick one, or you can, if none of those 4 work, you can tell it to do 4 more, and you have to kind of go through this cycle again and again until you get an image that you like. And so between that and then also using Photoshop to pull the subjects out of the images, to edit the images, it was also a tremendous amount of work. Not really that much less work than drawing the pictures myself. And once again, I found myself just getting bored of that visual identity. So it was a lot of work. The visual language I thought was increasingly kind of boring. So I stopped doing that entirely. Oh, I'm sorry, no. I totally left out the most important point here. At one point, I had in a video that had AI generated imagery, I had an actual painting from history, and someone commented, "Oh, it's crazy that AI can make timestamp of this actual real painting." And that made me kind of take a step back and think, oh, I can either have AI images in my video or I can have real art. I can't do both. Because I would hate for someone to see a painting in my videos that they really liked and then not pursue that art or that artist or whatever further because they said to themselves, oh, well, AI made that, so whatever. I would hate for that to happen, and it seemed like there was a tremendous risk of that happening, or it was already happening. So, between AI and actual art from history, the decision was pretty easy. I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do AI for that reason mostly, and then all the other reasons I discussed earlier. And so I ditched the AI completely, and now it's not something that is part of the process at all. I understand that there are a lot of ethical concerns about AI, and I think a lot of them are super important and valid, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm not as much of a fatalist when it comes to that sort of stuff. I think you can use AI ethically or not ethically. I think I used AI pretty ethically. The only job that it took was my own, and you could also argue that it created a job in that now making these YouTube videos is my job, and perhaps they wouldn't have gotten so popular if not for the AI. That's not a super strong argument, I recognize, but also there was no artist that could create the volume of work I needed for my videos. It was not possible from just a workload perspective, and also the money didn't exist to pay that artist. I think though that the counter argument to that is, okay, so you used AI and that, devalues art, and now people expect X, Y, and Z volume of artwork to be able to be produced in the time that AI can do it. And I think that's probably a really valid argument. Altogether, when I look at the videos I made that have AI in them, I see that as a flaw of those videos, and I kind of cringe looking at them, but I don't think it's such a flaw that it neuters the videos entirely. I still think they have value. I think people still enjoy them, and I still stand by the writing of those videos. But I do see that as an outstanding flaw. So I hope that answered the question. I don't use AI anymore. I had fun with it for a little while, and now it's in the rearview mirror pretty distantly. Do you have any tips for aspiring creators who want to make videos similar to yours? My tip would be to not try to make videos similar to mine. And this will tie into the next question. So, maybe more accurately, the way you should make your videos similar to mine is that you should make videos that you like. I make videos that I like. You should make videos that you like. YouTube is a very long game, in my experience. It has been. And the only way to make it sustainable is by making stuff that you like making stuff that you find fulfillment in making. What are some pitfalls that you'd advise other people watch out for in making their own videos or written works? So this question and the one before it, I think, kind of go hand in hand. I think the main pitfall is that you should not chase an audience, or you should not do things just to find views or interest or whatever external metric of success you are kind of thinking in your head. At the beginning of this channel, there might be a handful of people watching this who remember these days, but at the beginning of this channel, I had a niche, and I thought that, oh, if I make videos for this niche, people will watch because that group of people don't have videos to watch, and they will watch these, and I will find an audience, and it will be super successful by the metric of views and subscribers. I did that for like 3 years, and no one ever watched any of those videos. I had videos up until June of this year that had been on the YouTube channel for 3 years and had 50, 40, 30 views. So my pitfall that I think you should avoid is exactly that. I think the videos that find their audience are going to be the ones that are authentic and that are truly something you find interesting, rather than something you think other people would find interesting. I do think, though, that for me personally, those 3 years of no one watching were valuable in the sense that it was me getting in touch with what I thought was interesting, getting in touch with my own creative compass and seeing, where it would point me. Maybe there will be a time period of that for you. Maybe not. Maybe you'll make a video and immediately you'll love it and everyone else will love it. But for me, I think that I spent a lot of time seeking an audience, and that would have been time better spent seeking my own sort of approval. This is a big conversation and kind of one that I'll get into later, maybe on the Patreon. But you can't control what other people think of your creative output. You can only, you're only born with so much talent. All you can do is maximize the talent you have and make things as great as you know how to make them, or as great as you are capable of making them. And from there, whatever happens is not really up to you. You can't totally control how things are received, but you can control how they're presented. So I would say focus on that side of the creative process. I just turned 19 and people say that I am very underconfident. Is there a way for me to overcome this, or do people stay the way they are? So I don't generally believe in blanket advice that just applies to everyone and everyone should do this and they'll figure out their life. But when I was 19, I was very underconfident. I was in a very similar situation. I was awkward in social situations, and all that kind of went with that. And now I'm not Mr. Charisma, but I am better at social situations, so I think I can offer some perspective here. And that perspective is that it's kind of both. You can overcome it, and maybe you will be this way forever. I think that by putting yourself in, and this is just what worked for me, everyone is different, but by putting yourself in social situations wherein you're underconfident or uncomfortable, you can then kind of fake it till you make it. You'll get to where you need to be. And it's entirely possible that all along the way, you will have difficulty with it, and you'll have difficulty with it until the day you die. Certainly I still have difficulty with this, but I think I've gotten good enough at faking it to the point where people generally think I'm confident enough, not, horrendously awkward. So I think that just because something is hard, something like this is difficult, doesn't mean it's impossible. And just because something's hard doesn't mean it's something you shouldn't do. So that would be my advice, is that Yes, you can overcome it, and yes, it might be difficult. Yes, it also might always be difficult, but again, yes, you can overcome it. Popular intellectual you disagree with. So the first people that come to mind are the sort of Jordan Petersons of the world. I mean, specifically Jordan Peterson. And then also anyone who has a podcast that says that doing this, that, or the other thing every day is going to change your life forever. I try not to be cynical, but I don't always succeed. And I think that those people are mostly just grifters. But I don't know if that's a great answer for the question. I don't think I have a really great answer for the question, but I would point to, as far as one specific popular intellectual, say Albert Camus. And I agree actually with his ideas, so maybe this is also a kind of not great answer. I agree with his ideas, and a lot of his ideas you may have found parallels with in my videos, or basically just agreements with. But I can't stand reading the way he writes. I don't know if it's a translation thing or a virtue of time thing, but reading his books, it genuinely gives me a headache. When I remember the first time I tried to read The Myth of Sisyphus, I think it's called. I was reading it, and my head started hurting. And I thought, oh gosh, I can't read it anymore, my head hurts. And I put down the book, and my headache went away. And then I picked up the book, and I was reading it, and my head started hurting. And I realized just trying to parse his sentences and his style of writing genuinely, sincerely gives me a headache. It's a purely personal taste thing, and I'm not saying he's a bad writer. It's just to my personal sensibilities. I don't enjoy reading the way he writes. I just find it hard to take his sentences and interpret them in a way that makes sense linguistically. Is there a figure in history that lingers on your mind? If so, why? There are a couple, and most of these people I'm kind of working on a video about them in the background, but I'll talk about a couple of them here. So I was raised on the Barrier Islands of South Carolina. The American author Edgar Allan Poe spent a lot of time in the areas that I was raised. In his books, he talks about places that I spent a lot of my childhood. Obviously, just by virtue of proximity, he spends a lot of time in my mind, or my mind spends a lot of time on him. I suspect he posthumously has better things to do. But I think he's really fascinating, and maybe the reason I think about him is because I don't actually know that much about him. I love some of his stuff, and I'll be doing some audiobook readings of his over on the Patreon. But I do think a lot about him, and I think he's been kind of... People have adapted a lot of his works, but I don't know that there have been a lot of adaptations of just him as a person. So he's someone I really want to explore in the future. I'd also point towards Vladimir Lenin. Not that I don't think that Vladimir Lenin was some huge hero of the people or anything. It would seem to me that on balance of, bad stuff here, good stuff over here, the scale of his existence would tilt towards bad. But I do think it's interesting, and I know he's not the first person to have this sensibility in life, but the idea that in the pursuit of a goal that most people would probably agree is a good thing, economic equality or equity, he was so willing to do shockingly inhumane, awful things. And I find that dichotomy really interesting. The pursuit of virtue, and along the way doing really bad things. Does that make the bad things into good things? Does that make the end goal into a bad goal? I don't know. But it's something that I think about a lot, and he comes to mind when I think about that conflict. What can we expect in the future? I don't really know the answer to this question, unfortunately. If 6 months ago, I would not have thought I would be making the videos I am now. So I really don't know what I'll be doing 6 months from now as far as creative output. But my immediate roadmap/plan is, well, I'll have the Patreon to just make all kinds of stuff that most of which isn't really a YouTube video. And then on the YouTube channel, I'd like to keep focusing on the writing and improve the writing and hopefully make the videos not just longer for the sake of being longer, but dedicate the sort of real estate to these subjects that they deserve. And hopefully that means as I exercise my writing muscles that the writing will improve. I hope that I don't want to say more of the same on the YouTube channel, but hopefully just a better version of the same. But I think as far as horses, that whatever it is, it will expand beyond YouTube, beyond Patreon maybe even, without departing from the mothership too much, which is essays on YouTube. Personally, I also think that, well, I know that I have some ideas for fiction stories that I would like to tell. So I very much want to publish a novella, maybe a couple of novella in the future through just the traditional publishing methods and protocols. Hopefully that will happen at some point. And yeah, I guess, thesis to this question is I don't totally know, but I hope for better versions of the same sensibilities. What's your favorite 6+ minute song? Well, the band High Lung has a lot of 6-minute songs and much longer songs that I really enjoy. There are also a lot of classical songs, pieces, I don't know, that I really enjoy that are much longer than 6 minutes, but the thing that comes to mind here would be the song Small by the band Portishead on their album Third. I think that album is a masterpiece, and that's probably one of my favorite songs on the album. I think it's like 6 minutes 30, maybe 6:40, something like that. It's an amazing song, an amazing album, an amazing band. Is there a topic or story which you wouldn't research? The one that comes to mind first is food stuff. That was such a huge part of my life from when I was 14 to when I was late 20s. I was cooking in restaurants, and it was such a huge, it wasn't a huge part of my life, it was my life for so long that I don't feel great about extending it into this part of my life. But I make videos about stuff that I like, and I do like food, so it's entirely possible that tomorrow I'll have an idea for a video about food and I'll go make it. So maybe the more truthful answer is I wouldn't research a topic that I'm not interested in. I get a lot of suggestions in emails and comments, and I appreciate them a lot. I'm glad that people find my videos and creative output compelling enough that they would want to see it applied to this or that subject. But the chief driver of where I put these efforts is just stuff that I'm interested in. So topics and stories I wouldn't research would be stuff that I don't inherently really care about. Maybe that's a cop-out answer. I don't know. Are you the other channel of this other channel? I get a lot of comments asking if this is the second channel of a couple different people. I can't think of any specific names right now. The Simply Explained guy, people have thought that this is his channel. I am the only person involved with this channel. This is my only channel, so no, I am none of these other people. What's your favorite beverage? I do love a Bloody Mary. I also love a Chardonnay. And I do like gin and rum a lot. Those are all alcoholic. I also like chocolate milk a lot. So any of those. What biases might you have? I think this is a fun question because all information is biased in some way or the other. People often look for unbiased news sources, but all news is biased. Everything is biased because everyone has their own personal tastes, interests, convictions, beliefs, blah, 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 that will get plugged into the stuff they make. And I am no exception. Even the videos of mine that present maybe as the most unbiased, do have intrinsic bias to them. And among these biases, I'd say I'm pretty anti-right wing. On most positions, as you've probably figured out, I lean pretty far to the left. I find myself slightly biased against Christianity. I'm currently working on a video that is about Christianity, and it is becoming apparent that I have to make considerable effort to keep that bias at bay. Those are the two main ones that come to mind. I think I'm pretty biased against a lot of sort of media sensibilities of, everything has to be super fast and super loud and super intense and wild and crazy. I guess I'm biased against that. No, I definitely am. I don't know if that is a really interesting bias to say. But yeah, I have lots of biases. Those are the ones that come to mind. I'm sure if I sat around and thought about it for hours, I could come up with a list of 100. But everyone has biases, and I think it's important to remember that all information you consume is actually biased in one way or the other. This channel, super included. Do you hate horses? I don't hate horses. Maybe I would be scared of a horse if I was, if there was a horse a foot away from me. I think I'd be a little bit scared, but I definitely don't hate horses. I think they're pretty beautiful and amazing creatures, all in all. That's really all I've got. If people are interested in this, I might do some more on the channel. I'll definitely be doing more on the Patreon. Thanks for watching all the videos. Thanks for watching this one. Thanks for everything. You guys are amazing. This is all amazing. Thank you so much, and hopefully see you next time.